Nou, deze fabriek is echt een toonbeeld van wat wij noemen kringloop. Die insecten die hebben voedsel nodig wat we normaal weggooien, wat waardeloos is. We noemen bijvoorbeeld sinaasappelschillen. Daar voeden zij zich mee, dat zetten zij om in proteïne. En dieren en mensen hebben proteïne nodig om goed te kunnen functioneren.
Hello to you all. You're watching RHTV live from the Netherlands. The clip you just saw was an insect farm in the Netherlands, and our king, who is in the middle here, opens this new insect farm so the population can enjoy their insect burgers and stuff like that. It's happening, people. It's really, really happening. Rules for thee, but not for me, right? Yeah, that's how it goes. So, I welcome you all to RHTV Live, streaming from the beautiful city of Maastricht, even though, Maastricht is one of those cities where there was treason. We had made the euro in Maastricht. Look up the Maastricht Treaty, right? So, what's on the radar today? Well, if I have to believe the news, a top Pakistani Taliban guy got killed. And first I have to show you this here, guys. Wait. Ook voor het Nederlands publiek. Kijk. Forse kritiek op nieuwe coronawet. Ja, een nieuwe coronawet. Wie had dat ooit gedacht? Nou, je hebt het bij RHTVLive gehoord. Zodra het eenmaal in werking is, kom je er niet meer vanaf. Ja. So this is the new corona law, right? And they first said this law is temporary, right? Ja, deze wet is maar tijdelijk. Nou, wat is de definitie van tijdelijk? What is the definition of temporary, right? Die of dat slechts zekere tijd dat in gebruik is, geldt of duurt, niet definitief in gebruik, niet definitief geldend of niet definitief durend, niet blijvend, niet permanent, in bijwoordelijk gebruik, gedurende slechts zekere tijd. Maar wat staat hier? Permanent. Permanente coronawet. Ja. Dus they say it's temporary, and now they say it's here forever, It's permanent. Yeah. So this is a very, very sad situation in the Netherlands. And I also posted something else about the new farms that we have right here in the Netherlands. And let's see if we can pull that up. Ja, mensen, we hebben nieuwe boerderijen, kweekboerderijen. Ik heb het gepost en het zal hier ergens op staan. Even kijken. Volgens mij komt het hierna. Nee, hier. Voedselfabrieken staan in de scheurs om boeren te vangen. So food factories are already here to make way for the farmer. So this is what's in the Dutch news, right? And these food farms, the plants, they don't have natural sunlight, right? And they don't set themselves in the ground, So it's just hanging, and this is how they make food nowadays. Very, very sad thing to see. So I was talking about the the top Taliban guy. We hadden het over de top Taliban-leider in Pakistan. Die is doodgegaan. En wel 5 of 6 keer. Ik vind het heel knap. Maar we horen het hier. This Taliban leader in Pakistan has been killed 5 or 6 times. So very Jesus only resurrected once, right? So this guy can resurrect many, many times, I guess. Let's take a look at this.
Of the Pakistani Taliban, Abdul Wali Mahmud, has been killed in neighboring Afghanistan. That's according to Pakistani government officials. Mahmud was on the US State Department's wanted list. Osama bin Javed is live in Kabul with more on this now. Osama, well, what more can you tell us?
Well, it is a major blow to the Pakistani Taliban, also known as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or TTP. Abdul Wali Mahmood, also known as Umar Khalid Khorasani, was a leading figure known for not just his brutality, but his effective use of social media as well to put the group on the map in the last 2 decades or so. We have to realize that he's been reportedly killed at least 6 times beforehand, 3 of them being drone strikes which went after him. So this is somebody who's been reported dead and has and that's not come out to be true multiple times before. So waiting for the group to actually confirm his death. They have told Al Jazeera that there is going to be a declaration about, quote, his martyrdom. But it is a significant action against the group. There is still a bit of mystery shrouding how he was killed, as a report suggests that he was in his car and was killed with 2 of the commanders with either a roadside bomb or a rocket. We don't know.
So there you have it, right? Maybe he's dead, maybe he's not dead, and we don't really know, but we say he's dead. And maybe it was a car bomb, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, we don't know, but we say he is dead. This is amazing, people. This really is amazing. So, yesterday I was talking about the Israeli situation within Gaza and stuff like that. Now, let's take a look at where this attack took place. Even kijken waar het plaats heeft gevonden. Eastern Afghanistan. Oh well. Let's put Afghanistan on the map, right? Afghanistan. There you go. And where was it? Somewhere in the southeast, right? So if you go to the right, it's east. So southeast, south is downward. So, and I bet it's near the border of Pakistan, because it's a Pakistani Taliban, right? So who knows? Who knows? Maybe this guy is still alive. Maybe the press is wrong for the millionth time, So, and southeast, if you go up, you go north. If you go left, you go west. If you go down, you go south, right? and east is to the right. So southeast of the country. It's a very big country. So it could be here somewhere, right? At this very weird triangular shaped corner. Or it could be here somewhere. Or it could be here somewhere, right? Could be here somewhere. So that's very, very vague. And that is something to look at. Remember Osama bin Laden, right? He was at a Pakistani base, military base, if you believe that, if you believe the official story. So we always have to question what's going on and what is going on here, right? Now, as I've said before, I was talking about Israel and Palestine yesterday, and I said the way when you see Israeli, bombing Gaza and stuff like that, then you know that elections are around the corner, right? You guys can look it up, but I'm not. It's not something that I just made up. Nope. Israeli Prime Minister announces coalition government's dissolution, calls new election 1 month ago. You see? And Israelis are like, those Palestinians. So this is what's happening, people. And it's very, very sad to see. So let's take a look at what's happening in Gaza right now. Gaza news today. Warning: graphic content. Palestinian militants fire rockets at Israel after Gaza airstrikes. With deadly airstrikes, at least 24 Palestinians dead, killed within 2 days. Israel and Gaza exchange fire. So this is what's been happening in the past few days, and also worthwhile to watch, right? Now, why isn't there a two-state solution? If you look at South Africa, for example, right? You have Lesotho within South Africa. So you have a country within a country. Now, why isn't that possible in the Middle East? I do not understand this. Lesotho. There you go. Here you have Lesotho. And if you zoom out, you have South Africa. You see? So you have a country within a country. Now, I have no clue why Israel says, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Well, I do have a clue, namely Hamas. And who made Hamas? Well, let's take a look at Ron Paul. Ron Paul. There you go. Let's take a look at who made Hamas.
The gentlewoman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Dr. Paul.
The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Gentlelady for yielding and ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this resolution, not because I am taking sides and picking who the bad guys are and who the good guys are, but I'm looking at this more from the angle of being a United States citizen, an American, and I think resolutions like this really do us great harm. In many ways, what's happening in the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility for both sides in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability, which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and it served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first indirectly and directly through Israel help establish Hamas. Then we have an election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s, you know, we were allied with Osama bin Laden. And we were contending with the Soviets. It was at that time our CAA thought it was good if we radicalized the Muslim world. So we financed the madrasa schools to radicalize the Muslims in order to compete with the Soviets. There's too much blowback. There's a lot of reasons why we should oppose this resolution. It is not in the interest of the United States. It's not in the interest of Israel either.
Thank you, Mr. Ron Paul. Thank you for explaining what's happening. So if you look at the Middle East, right, you have to go back a few decades, back to the 1970s, right? You have the situation that Israel is expanding within Palestine, right? So all the Palestinians go to Lebanon. And Israel says, hey, wait a minute, there are many terrorists over there in Lebanon, right? So Israel attacks Lebanon. And then there was somewhat of a peace, and Syria intervened in Lebanon because of the Palestinian situation, you know, and they wanted a puppet government in Lebanon that listens to Syria, right? So this is what happened during the 70s and early 80s, and even in the 1990s. So it's been a long, long war, and still war going on in Israel with the Palestine people suppressed. Let's take a look at what happened 2 days ago.
An Israeli airstrike on Gaza killed at least 10 people on Friday, including a senior commander of a Palestinian militant group. It marks the deadliest escalation of violence in the territory since last May. Among the casualties was a 5-year-old child, while 55 others were wounded. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement fired rockets into Israel as retaliation just hours later. Israeli TV stations showed missiles being shot down by air defense systems. There were no immediate reports of casualties. Tensions have been rising for days following the arrest of a Palestinian militant leader earlier this week. Israel's prime minister defended Friday's strikes, saying Israel would do whatever it takes to defend its people.
Our fight is not with the people of Gaza. Islamic Jihad is an Iranian proxy that wants to destroy the state of Israel and kill innocent Israelis.
Why is those Iran? You know, Hezbollah is also in Lebanon, right? That is Iranian influence, and they're in the political sphere. Why are you so paranoid about Iran, Israel? You know, even though they say we're going to wipe you off the map, I understand this because you degrade the Palestinian people, right? For all the Jewish people listening, in Europe there was a very, very bad war, right? World War II. Let's not forget that. And it was the Jewish people that were in concentration camps, right? Now, they suffered. They suffered a lot. But why would you do the same to another people what you experienced? Why would you do the same? That is my question to you. Why would you do the same as what happened to you in a faraway time? If you go back long enough, you see the Hebrew people leaving Cairo, right? Making Judea. So I know my history. And very, very sad to see that people cannot get along. Well, what about Lebanon? I mean, they're in default. You know, economically, it's very, very bad in Lebanon. And people are still surviving. I'm glad that the Lebanese people are still surviving. I'm glad that people in Gaza are still surviving, even though it's very hard for them. I'm glad that the people in the West Bank are still surviving, even though it's very hard for them, you know. Think about this, right? You lived in a house for generations, right? And then one day a soldier comes to your house and says, you got to go. Otherwise, I'll put a bullet in your head. You got to go. You know? And this is what's happening to the Palestinian people. I'm not choosing sides. I'm just trying to show objectively what's going on here. We need to understand the situation, what's going on, so we can solve the problem, right? What we want is world peace. We don't want war, you know? And one big step is taken in Chad. The last time I talked about Chad, here we have Chad. The president was shot, a power vacuum in the capital, which is this year. Dajimna or something like that. So this year is the capital. And let's take a look at what's happening in Chad right now. Chad Peace Accord. Deal allows national dialogue, wider reform. So you have many fractions within Sudan, right? You have the African people, you have the Islam people, you have many fractions within those two systems, basically, and it was a power vacuum, and now there's hopefully a peace deal on table, and let's take a look at this.
43 of Chad's political factions and armed groups have signed the long-awaited peace agreement, giving the opposition and the Transitional Military Council cause for hope.
It was a very tough and difficult talks, but what is important is the result which we got at the end of this long process. And I think that this agreement will lead us to a sustainable peace in Chad.
A ceasefire, general amnesty, and a national dialogue will be the first articles to be implemented. The dialogue, due to be held later this month in the capital N'Djamena, is meant to lead to the formation of a government of national unity, constitutional reforms, and democratic elections. Qatar, which sponsored the talks, says the agreement is just the beginning.
They are very helpful that it will end hostilities between the different parties. It will move the process from a military process to a political process, and will allow for an easy transition towards the negotiations in Chad itself.
But not all factions have signed the deal. Among the absentees in Doha on Monday was one of the largest armed groups, the Front for Change and Concord in Chad, or FACT.
I think at the beginning we were a little bit sure that FACT will not sign. They were putting some unacceptable conditions for the government, among which there is the release of the prisoners just after the signing.
The peace agreement is still open, and then it's still open for everybody to come join the peace agreement in the future.
You see, Qatar is trying to put on an international face, right? Now, where is the World Cup? In Qatar, right? So they're trying to put on an international face, and they are making progress in certain countries. But they have to look at their own country, They have a king, and an absolute king, right? So basically, the population is not allowed to drink, and this and that. Very strict laws, very strict. And during the World Cup, people drink. So there's a free zone, a zone that they made where you can freely drink, where you can, do this and that. So, and very odd, as a civilian, you're not allowed to drink, right? But if you're in the free zone, you are allowed to drink, even though it's temporary. Yeah. So that's an odd situation going on there. Now let's take a look at Colombia, because Colombia has a new president, and that is also a very odd situation, because basically you have many factions over there, right? Many armed factions, and you have M19, you have FARC, and other organizations. Those two are the most famous. And FARC is still, still fighting the fight, whatever that is. And M19 has become political. So, and the Speaker of the House in Colombia is from the political branch from M19, right? And this is how they seed their, plant their seeds. This is how they infiltrate politics. So now you have a new president who is a rebel ex-fighter from M19. The big terrorist organization. So here we go.
A new era in Colombian politics has begun.
I swear to God and promise to the people to faithfully comply with the Constitution and laws of Colombia.
Former rebel fighter of the M19 movement, Gustavo Petro, swore in as the country's first leftist president in a ceremony filled with symbolism and promise of change.
I want to say to all the Colombians who are listening to me in the Bolivar Plaza and in all of Colombia and abroad that today our second opportunity begins. It's the hour of change. Our future has not been written. The Colombia of what's possible starts today. We are here against all predictions and against a story that said we would never govern, against those who didn't want to let go of power, but we did.
Activist and former housemate Francia Marquez also swore in as Colombia's first black vice president, calling on her ancestors for protection.
I also swear before my ancestors, until dignity becomes customary.
Tens of thousands of supporters flooded the streets of downtown Bogotá, making it look more like a carnival than a political event.
I'm here for joy, to celebrate what we've been waiting for a long time.
If Petro can achieve peace, then he will make good to Colombians, dignifying the life of farmers, workers, and the victims of this country.
Petro received the presidential sash from a visibly moved young senator, daughter of a former M19 presidential candidate assassinated during the country's civil war. And his first order as president came right after taking the oath of office. He called word of Simón Bolívar, hero of the Wars of Independence, to be brought to the ceremony from the presidential palace, reversing a ban by his predecessor. It carried special symbolism. The M19 stole the sword in 1974 from a museum, only returning it after disarming. Petro joins a new wave of leftist governments in Latin America. His plans are probably the most ambitious, aiming to lower poverty and hunger, ending the war on drugs, developing the long-neglected countryside, and transiting from oil and coal to fight climate change.
The moment of truth has come for Gustavo Petro and his government. Starting on Monday, he will have to demonstrate that indeed his administration will be able to transform into realities his many promises and the hope a majority of Colombians have placed in him. Alessandro Rampietti, Al Jazeera.
People hope in a leader, a leader, someone who can lead. Now, I don't know about this guy, but as I've said before, he's M19, and who knows how much blood he spilt, right? And we will see. We will keep our eye on Colombia. And I also want to give you guys attention to Suriname, because in Suriname we have a live streamer, a political activist who is, scared of assassination. Rendel Feller. Even kijken of we dat kunnen opzoeken. Rendel. Rendel Feller. natuurlijk ook naar. Ja, mensen, dit is ook van belang dat we het eventjes gaan uitzoeken hier. Rendel, die had me namelijk een link gegeven. Randall gave me a link and he wanted me to there, Randall. So, daar, doneeractie. So, this feller is in fear for his life. It says he's been shot at and he's been arrested many times. And we gaan even een stukje voorlezen. We're going to read a bit. Rendel Feller is een Surinaamse burger die zich al jaren inzet voor de onrechtvaardigheden die plaatsvinden in Suriname. So Randall Feller is a Suriname civilian that is fighting for years against the injustice that is taking place in Suriname. Hij staat bekend als activist en organiseert diverse protestacties gericht op gelijkheid tussen burgers en politici, de wisselende koers, de toenemende winkelprijzen, de toenemende armoede, corruptie, belastingverhogingen en vriendjespolitiek. So he's trying to show a lot of stuff, you know, and he's trying to make connection between the civilians and politicians, you know, and he's trying to bridge that and talking about inflation going on in the shops and stuff like that, corruption and friendly politics. Maar sinds kort kan hij het niet meer doen zonder gevaar voor zijn eigen leven. Nou, doneeractie, er is al anoniem €10 gegeven. En ja, hij wil toch door gaan vloggen en zijn ding doen. Maar daarvoor wil hij dus wel beschermd zijn. Nou, en hier kan hij dus mensen inhuren om dus voor zijn veiligheid te waarborgen. Er staat ook ergens in dat dat er op hem geschoten is. Even kijken. Oh ja, hier. En daarom gaat Rendel bijna elke dag de straat op om te protesteren. Inmiddels is hij meerdere malen aangehouden door de politie wegens opruiming en ook afgevoerd. Maar onlangs is hij onderweg naar huis beschoten en nu vreest hij voor zijn leven. Dus these are very troubling times when a prominent activist is shot at and you know, who knows. So if you can donate some dollars or some money to Rendel so he can do his thing, you know, then it is appreciated. Dus ook dat hebben we behandeld. En ja, gisteren kwamen we dus even niet op een naam. We were stuck on a name about that guy, you know, associated with Julian Assange. Well, it's Bradley Manning. You remember him or her? There you go, American whistleblower. Now, Bradley Manning is now Chelsea Manning, right? So this person was in Guantanamo Bay for like a decade or something because he gave video evidence of a war crime. Gave it to WikiLeaks. And Julian Assange is still in England waiting to be extradited towards America for espionage and whatever else. So Chelsea Elizabeth Manning is an American activist and whistleblower. She is a former United States Army soldier who was convicted by court-martial in July 2013 for violations of Espionage Act, right? So we were talking about this subject and we couldn't think of the name. So there you have it, right? Chelsea Manning. And yeah, there's so much going on, people, so much going on. But I think I've explained enough for today. And there are other lives where I am invited to go. So I'm going to shut down. So I thank you all for watching. Even kijken of er even te kijken mee. Weer bombardementen en oorlog in Israël onder Biden. Alles gaat mis met Trump, was het rustig. Ja, kijk, Trump, dat was iemand die zijn vuist op tafel legde. Ja? Trump was someone who put his fist on the table and said, hey, we're not going to do this, you know. Dit gaan we niet doen. Dus kijk, dat is een heel andere houding dan van ja meneer Schwab, ja meneer Schwab. En hij heeft zich onafhankelijk opgesteld als president. Hij hoort er wel bij de Republikeinen, maar de transitie wat nu bezig is in Amerika, dat is iets heel moois om te zien. Namelijk, er komen nieuwe Republikeinen. Ja, there are new Republicans in America. There's a transition going on. You know, Americans are proud of their country. Who has ever heard of J.R. whatever his name was? J.R. Wait a minute, J.R. Majewski. Who's ever heard of that guy? Right? This guy, he was like, okay, I'm going to run. He had a shoestring budget, and people voted for him. So now he's a politician. You know, the land of possibilities. Not the American dream. No, you have possibilities in America. Right? So this guy, you know, he never even thought of being in politics. You're the site owner. Trump-backed congressional candidate J.R. Majewski is, you see, no one has heard of him. He's an outsider, right? And there's something happening within the Republican Party where you have outsiders instead of rhinos, you know? And people are like, rhino? Republican in name only. Rhino. Dus, we gaan afsluiten, mensen. Oh ja, dit moet ik ook nog laten zien. Hè. Zo, kijk. This was Freedom Info, where you get geopolitics, history, and of course, news. We do this to expand the mind, you know. So I thank you all for watching, and we will be back tomorrow, God willing. And I wish you all a good night. Ja mensen, we gaan er vandoor. Doei doei. Dank voor het kijken. Dank voor het delen. Jullie zijn het licht. Vergeet het niet. Laat het licht niet doven in dit land. You are the light. Do not forget that. Don't let the light dim in your country. Bye bye.